Kia ora, I'm Jay Howell and welcome to Sea Kayaking in the Surf Zone. This is a Kiwi Association of Sea Kayakers introductory training video covering a range of topics relevant to sea kayaking in the surf zone, including gear, safety and etiquette, assessing the conditions, launching and landing, steering, broaching and bracing, and rescues. This video is inspired by and draws upon the excellent training sessions held at Waihi Beach and led by Deb, Dan, and JKA. So grab your favorite beverage, sit back, and enjoy. So why learn to kayak in the surf zone? For me, the answer is simple: because it's fun. My formative kayaking took place on the open California coast among powerful swells and big surf, and I love paddling in the boundary zone, where the land and ocean comes together. I appreciate that many kayakers have enjoyed kayaking for years in protected waters without any need to negotiate paddling through the surf. And it's great there is a wide range of kayaking opportunities here in New Zealand. Due to our extensive coastline, however, many kayak destinations can involve some degree of launching and landing through the waves, either at the start of a trip or to take a break at a beach along the way. Developing your surf zone skills will provide the extra confidence and help keep your paddling adventures safe and, most importantly, fun. Before we get in the water, it's important to cover some groundwork. First on the list is gear, starting with your kayak. While some kayaks perform better than others in the surf, I suggest focusing on improving your surf zone skills in your existing kayak. The skills in this video are generally applicable to most kayaks. Also, while I'm strongly biased towards enclosed sea kayaks, much of the material in this video is relevant to sit-on-top kayaks. I generally suggest using your existing paddle that you are familiar with. However, at times I see people using paddles that are too long. In the surf, this can be dangerous due to the leverage force waves can have on the paddle. Shorter paddles tend to be better in the surf. Paddle leashes can be useful to keep track of your paddle when taking photos or having an on-the-water snack, but can be dangerous in the surf and should be unclipped before entering the surf zone and around rocks. Now let's take a look at some aspects of kayak outfitting that are important in the surf zone. First, notice the deck lines on my kayak. These make it easy to grab hold of the kayak if you fall out. Secure, watertight hatches are also important. Hatches should have inner watertight covers or other design features to keep water out, and well-secured lids. Breaking waves can exert a tremendous pressure on kayaks. A secure hatch system will prevent your kayak from becoming swamped by the surf. If your kayak does not have watertight bulkheads, then float bags are essential. Any gear on your deck should be well secured, or better yet, stowed securely inside your kayak, or it could become free booty. A tow line is useful for retrieving kayaks that are in danger of getting washed into the rocks or carried out to sea. They can also be quite dangerous in the surf due to the risk of entanglement, combined with the powerful forces of a wave. As such, tow lines should be well secured and used with caution and an appropriate level of experience. Rudders are optional and are often kept stowed in the surf so they don't get in the way or broken when beaching. A well-fitting spray skirt is also important. The force of a breaking wave can easily pop a loose skirt, but it is also important that you can easily pop your skirt loose if you wet exit. Of course, you should already have practiced your wet exits in your kayak. Because of the increased risk of capsize in the surf, helmets are strongly recommended. One submerged rock in the wrong place can have serious consequences. Also, please wear your PFD. Okay, so let's talk about safety and surf etiquette. Kayaking, like many sports, has elements of both self-responsibility and teamwork. And this is particularly true in the surf zone. First and foremost, paddlers need to look out for themselves, which means developing your own skills and knowing your limits. It is much more enjoyable to have the confidence of successfully getting in through the surf rather than relying on your mates to fish your gear out of the soup. So what are some of the hazards of paddling in the surf zone? We kayakers are probably the biggest hazard. It is very easy to lose control of a kayak when in the surf, creating a danger to other kayakers or surfers, or ourselves if we are swimming near a loose kayak. The pointy end of a kayak can cause serious injury. Don't let your kayak become a weapon. When practicing surf skills, it is best to pick a location where there aren't many surfers or others in the water, and remember to share the water.
Does anybody want to take it from here? How do you avoid a collision? How do you avoid a collision? What? Oh! He is the most experienced. Yes! If you're coming toward me, what are you going to do? Hey, hey, hey! And then what are you going to do?
Well, I'm going to try not to hit you, but I also need to be yelling as well.
And then what are you going to do? You're going to tuck and protect as you tip over.
Oh, yeah.
A loose kayak in the surf can have a lot of force when being pushed by a breaking wave. Always stay to one side of the kayak or on the ocean side of the kayak as opposed to the beach side. When getting out of a beached kayak that is turned parallel to the incoming waves, exit on the water side and not the beach side. If a wave hits the kayak, it could have enough force to break an ankle or leg. Also, if someone is approaching your kayak to help you get out, make sure they don't stand on the beach side of the kayak if there are incoming waves. A kayaker who has wet exited in the surf could be cold and tired after getting to the beach, so we should ask and provide assistance if needed. When kayaking in the surf, we should be alert to surfers and practice good surf etiquette when sharing the waves. Surfers often have to work quite hard to catch a wave, so to have a kayaker drop in and ruin their ride can be dangerous and not very nice. If there is a surfer riding a wave, the surfer will often be the closest to the wave's pocket or point where the wave is breaking and have right-of-way on the wave, and the kayaker should stay well clear or get off the wave. It is best if we pick a spot to play that is well clear of the surfers. Because we generally paddle with others, teamwork is an important and meaningful aspect of kayaking. Accordingly, we maintain awareness of the capabilities of others we are paddling with and maintain group awareness when on the water. When paddling in higher risk areas, such as around surf, working as a team is particularly important. Teamwork requires communication. Before getting on the water, we pick a leader, discuss a plan, and listen to each other's input and concerns. While on the water, we also need to communicate, and we have some tools for this. A whistle on your PFD is excellent for getting attention, but keep in mind it might be hard to hear with the noise of breaking waves. So we should always stay visually alert to others in the water around us. Hand and paddle signals are an important form of communication when out in the water. The basic signals are as follows. Are you okay? Or responding, I am okay? Help? Or I need your attention? Come to me or gather up? Stop and hold your position? Or would you like to join my paddle bubble? The next topic is assessing the conditions and learning to read the waves of water. Here, the most important aspect is getting experience and time on the water. But there are some key concepts that are useful to discuss. Waves come in different shapes and sizes. The starting point is checking the swell or surf forecast. I typically use the website windy.com for this. The swell forecast tells you the height of the swell measured from trough to peak in meters. It also tells the period, which is the time interval in seconds between each swell. The volume of water in each swell is a combination of its height and period. The bigger the volume, the bigger the waves will be breaking on shore. An experienced kayaker combines the swell forecast information with his or her local knowledge and visual assessments to assess the conditions. This takes into account many factors, including tides, currents, and rip tides, whether the beach is steep or gradual, studying timing of sets of bigger waves, whether waves are fast dumping or slow breaking, degree of reflection, refraction, and diffraction of waves, and visible rocks and signs of submerged rocks. Also, keep in mind that the conditions will likely change throughout the day. A beach that was easy to launch from in the morning could be more challenging in the afternoon, as the waves have increased due to increasing wind and changing tides. This is a lot to take in for those that are just getting started and comes through years of experience. There are some good basic pointers to keep aware of, however. Gradual beaches with slow breaking waves are easier than steep beaches with fast rising, dumping waves. Riptides are your friend. They can be the best place to launch and land through the surf, since they tend to indicate deeper water and can help to flatten the waves. Sandy beaches are easier on kayaks and your body than rocky beaches. Rocks in the water can be friendly when they create a safe zone behind them. Okay, so it's finally time to get in the water, so let's talk about launching. Your group has assessed the conditions and picked a good spot to launch from. Generally, the strongest paddlers should launch first and last in order to be able to best help others, with the last person assisting others to get a clean launch off the beach. Put your spray skirt on before launching to stop dumping waves from swamping your kayak. It helps if the last person can hold each kayak steady and then give a push out through the water to get a clean start. Waves and currents will sometimes try to turn the kayak parallel with the beach. This is dangerous as the shore break can then roll you in the sand and it can be difficult to get turned back towards the open water. So to try to keep your kayak pointed straight out using your paddle, sometimes by digging it in the sand. Assess the waves and try to leave the beach during a lull. Once clear of the beach, continue to assess the waves, and if there is a big set, wait for it to pass. Once things look clear, paddle hard. It is generally best to commit and paddle hard out through the waves as opposed to hesitating. Your kayak should cut through each wave, particularly if you put a couple extra strokes in as you climb over each wave. Jab your paddle into the wave. Grab the water with your blade and go.
I'd like to demonstrate the boat. I call it jab, grab, go. Jab, grab, go. So, Paul, why don't you be the wave? Okay? So let's be a little wave first. Alright, so I'm paddling out. Boom. Stay really low. See, I get easy. Okay, you found a nice little wave. Get low. And I'm just going to reach across the back of the wave. Okay, small wave. Alright? Bigger wave.
Bigger wave. 2 people, 2 waves, one each side.
So if it's a little like below my head, I may the blade over and reach the back face. Right? Reach over and go. So what if I've got the oh my god Paul wave? Let's watch backwards. Okay, stop. I'm gonna go. Boom! You're gonna keep going. I'm gonna pierce. And go. Right?
often, when paddling out through the waves, slightly altering your course to aim for the portion of the wave that isn't breaking yet can make a big difference. Make sure you keep paddling out far enough to be well clear of any potentially large breaking waves. Then wait for others in your group to follow you out. As you gain experience, you will get comfortable in bigger and bigger waves, as well as getting a better sense of when the waves are just too big and fast breaking to safely launch.
So let's talk about landing now. Getting back into the beach can often be more challenging, and certain skills are key here. It's good for the group to gather outside of the breaking waves and assess conditions and the best place to come ashore. Similar to launching, it is best if the more experienced paddlers go first and last to be in the best position to help others. Watch the sets come through to get a sense of the size of the biggest waves and timing of the lulls. Make sure there is no one else in the surf zone that could potentially get in your way. If others have paddled in before you and are on the beach, they might use their upraised paddle to signal that it is all clear to come in and where best to aim for. When there is a lull, commit and paddle hard towards the beach, keeping an eye out behind. Here, the goal when you are learning is to try not to catch a breaking wave. If there is a wave coming up behind you, you will start to feel the water drop out underneath. If you paddle hard backwards, the waves should pass under you as opposed to catching and surfing the wave. Then as soon as the wave is passed, paddle hard again towards the beach. Repeat this, and then let the final wave push you as far up the beach as possible. The backwards paddle stroke is a very powerful stroke, an important tool to avoid catching a wave that you don't want. As you practice and gain experience, it is good to experiment with different strategies. For example, one good technique to practice is riding the crest of a wave or following closely behind a wave. When beaching, it is good to exit as quickly as possible. However, this is not always possible if your legs are stiff. It helps if there is someone else ready to pull you up the beach and hold your kayak. When exiting, it can also help to use your paddle across the back deck to steady the kayak and maintain your balance when you lift out. When coming into the beach, if the waves have turned your kayak sideways, exit your kayak on the water side to avoid possible injury from additional waves hitting the kayak. Once you get your kayak clear of the water, look around to see if others need assistance.
They practiced stealth there. I dropped off the way straight onto the sand.
So I said when learning, it is best to try to avoid catching waves. The problem with this is that catching waves is the fun part. It is often not possible to avoid catching breaking waves. So if you do catch a wave, how do you control the kayak? Or maybe more pertinent, what do you do when you can't control your kayak? With a sea kayak, you will want to try to keep the kayak running straight down the face of the wave and then in front of the soup after the wave breaks. This is easier in slow or not quite breaking waves. The primary method to keep the kayak running straight is using your paddle as a stern rudder. We will talk more about this paddle technique in a bit. Rudders are usually not used in the surf. While they can help keep a kayak pointed straight in smaller surf, As the waves get steeper, they are not very effective and can become counter-effective. When the waves get larger and steeper, sea kayaks can be difficult to impossible to keep pointed straight when surfing a wave. Typically, they naturally want to turn sideways to a wave, and this is referred to as broaching. When a kayak broaches, you lose steering control and stability of the kayak, and the wave wants to either roll the kayak or knock it out from underneath you. This is where bracing comes in. Bracing is a fundamental kayak skill used to stay upright when turned sideways to a wave. And learning and practicing good bracing technique is important if you plan to kayak in and around waves. There are both low and high braces depending on how big the wave is and on your choice of technique.
And you'll bounce in. Small stuff like this, low brace, okay. Sometimes you'll be out in really bigger stuff where the waves are quite high. So there we use the high brace. The high brace is exactly the opposite. So instead of being down here, you're just going up here. Two things to remember with the high brace. Elbows kept in. I've seen too many people do this. You know, the high brace do that, and then the shoulder goes that, and they end up with an arm over here somewhere. So on a high brace, always keep that, protect yourself, keep that shoulder in. Same thing, you will lean onto the wave, paddle, the wave's here, blade will be on top of the wave, you'll be sitting this leg slightly raised, the boat at this angle, and you'll be going in. Yeah.
Extreme high brace. Right, so let's go for low brace. Show me a low brace on this side. Yep. So notice elbow up, using the back face on the wave. Where is he? Which way is he going?
That way.
Going that way, right? Now he's in the twilight zone and Dan's gonna do the wave. Yeah, grab his blade. Elbow up. Good. Okay, so key things to keep this safe are it is low, nice and low. His elbows are up, which protects his shoulders. It also gives him more power in the blade of the brace. Okay. Can you dislocate your shoulder in a low brace? No. Because I've been doing this a long time, and for years, instructors were taught to never teach a high brace because you'll dislocate your shoulders. You just use a low brace because you won't dislocate your shoulder. All of a sudden, we're getting all the shoulder dislocations. Right? So how are you getting shoulder dislocation with a low brace? Flip over. Where's that arm going? With the blade? Yeah. Okay. Low brace, shoulder dislocation brace.
That's what I like here.
How much force does it take to dislocate a shoulder?
Not much.
Huh?
Not much.
About 5 kilograms.
Wow.
11 pounds. Make a point.
Yeah.
Alright. So, and I would say, there's your low high brace.
Yeah.
Right there. So, more engine.
Oh,
See that? And I saw you even do that up. Yeah. Okay, up right again. Yeah. So you see where he was protected? In low, in tight. So even up here when he's edging, it's easy to get out of the zone and get too high.
Yeah.
Drop your, I call this your anchor hand.
Yeah.
That's your bracing hand. Your anchor hand drops down.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay? Now we're in the twilight zone. So we got away from the other direction. Nice. See the way he sat up and engaged his core? Oh, that's nice. Yeah. Good.
So let's revisit the stern rudder paddle stroke at this point. The stern rudder is basically a low brace where the paddle is extended back alongside the kayak and with the blades submerged or partly submerged in a vertical or semi-vertical position to provide turning leverage. The degree of stern rudder versus low brace is often fluid, and the two techniques are used together by slightly adjusting the blade angle in the water and how far back alongside the kayak the blade is. When discussing bracing, we mentioned that when the arm becomes extended back, it creates a risk of shoulder dislocation, and this also applies for the stern rudder. It is best to keep the bracing hand close to the body, as in a low brace, and rotate the anchor hand forward to bring the paddle blade back and into the water. Often a wave will steepen such that the stern rudder is no longer effective in keeping the kayak from broaching. At this point, shift into a safer standard low or high brace position. When learning to brace, it is best to start out practicing on the beach, then move to smaller waves close to shore, and gradually progress to bigger waves. Remember, keep your arms and elbows close to your body and don't overextend your arms too far up or back. Once you gain proficiency with bracing, your confidence in waves should go up significantly. It is probably stating the obvious, but if you are kayaking in the surf zone, you should be prepared to be capsized and knocked out of your kayak. The first consideration is making sure you can wet exit from your kayak before going out into the surf. So let's talk about a few important considerations for wet exits. First, make sure your spray skirt's tight but comes off easily when you need. It is good to also check your kayak buddy's skirt loops to make sure they are visible in addition to your own when launching and when out in the water. Also, practice removing your spray skirt by alternate means without using the release loop. If you grab the fabric of the skirt near the side of the rim with one or both hands, you should be able to pop the skirt off the rim. When capsizing, tuck as soon as possible to set up for exit and minimize risk of injury. So what happens if you find yourself swimming outside your kayak? The first thing is to watch for incoming waves and get out of the way of your kayak if there is a risk of a wave knocking it into you. Also, it will almost always be best to stay with and hang on to your kayak and paddle. Then keep calm and assess your situation. Self-rescue is often the best option in the surf, and often the waves will naturally push you and your kayak to shore. Just hang on to your kayak and assist the process by swimming with the passing waves. You can also climb onto and straddle the back of your kayak and paddle it towards the beach, and this is good to practice. If the kayak is parallel to a big breaking wave, it will likely get knocked away from you. It will be easier to hold on to the kayak from the bow or stern with the kayak pointed towards the beach and perpendicular to the wave. Watch out for big, fast-breaking waves, as these can roll you and your kayak with a potential for injury if you get hit. A kayak full of water can have a lot of force when propelled in the wave. In this situation, it might be better to separate from the kayak, get to shore, and wait for the waves to bring the kayak in. If you see someone else in the water in the surf zone, watch first to see if they are managing okay on their own. Use the OK hand signal and see if they respond. Going in to help can create a new risk of hitting them in the waves with your own kayak. So if they're managing on their own, it is better to keep a close eye on them from an appropriate distance. If the person does need assistance, paddle to them between waves and have the person grab onto the back of your kayak and paddle them to shore. A person on the back of your kayak adds to the stability of the kayak, making it easier to stay upright as waves pass by. After you've taken care of the person, you can work on retrieving the kayak if it isn't already coming to shore on its own. These are all good things to practice. Watch for riptides and currents, which can make it difficult to get back to shore. Be alert to exhaustion, as beach landings are often at the end of the day after a full day of paddling, and swimming in the surf with lots of clothing on can tire a person very quickly. Tow lines can be useful in retrieving kayaks that are not coming into shore on their own. However, keep in mind that a kayak full of water will be difficult to tow, and due to the waves, it could be difficult to empty the water. Also, if either kayak gets caught in a wave, it could exert a lot of force on the tow line, which can be quite dangerous to the tower or anyone else in the water, particularly if you get tangled in the line. As a result, caution should be used if using a tow line in the surf. While it is not necessary to be able to roll your kayak to paddle in the surf zone, it certainly helps. It is a good skill to learn. Once you have mastered a basic roll, the dynamic environment of the surf zone is a great place to practice your rolls. If you get knocked over by a wave and caught in a soup, be patient to allow for proper setup once the wave has passed. Or roll immediately using the wave's energy to assist with the roll. A quick flick of the paddle or brace is sometimes all it takes to get to roll back up. Bailout rolls are also an important safety tool. The idea is to roll as an emergency stop to potentially avoid hitting someone or something, or to avoid being hit. I hope this video has inspired you to go out and play. Keep it safe and remember some basic safety rules. Don't let your kayak become a weapon. Tuck and protect when wet exiting. Keep your elbows in when bracing. Don't reach out with your arm when beaching. And no collisions. For many kayakers, paddling in the surf can be intimidating. Challenging yourself to expand your skills will increase your confidence and enjoyment and help keep the adventure alive. Ho'i hari and happy paddling, everyone.